I'm Holly, and this is More Than Mindfulness with Lifehouse Body and Soul. Today, I want to talk to you about using mindfulness to find your center. I think that it might be important for you to realize or just think about even what it might look like to have lost or to have moved away from your center. For me, moving away from my center looks a lot like me playing God or a higher power in my life and the life of others. I'm usually scurrying around, trying to control, trying to fix, trying to persuade, trying to prove, trying to hustle my worth. It looks a lot like living in a state of crisis. It looks like my mind analyzing and going over and over and over scenarios and what I could have said, what I should have said. There's a lot of really hopeless and helpless words like always and never and I can't and I have to, and a lot of victim mentality. This is a state of being that felt normal to me. This is normal that I would go into those places, and what I didn't realize was that when that was happening, I was detaching from my center. And at my center lives a higher power. At my center lives my wholeness and my connection. And I think it's more common for human beings than we realize to fill that center with things like I talked about before, the crisis, the have-tos, the musts, and the things that felt really important and almost life and death, but really they were just packing and filling up a space that meant that there was no room for my higher power. So in your mindfulness practice, when you become mindful of your breath, it becomes the vehicle back to your center. And so we'll just take a moment working through a mindfulness practice. If you want to be seated, if you want to just find a comfortable space, and maybe you could close your eyes if that feels okay. And with your eyes closed, become really mindful of your inhales. And see where your inhales move into the body, and then become mindful of your exhales. And inhaling and exhaling. Noticing your breath and how deep or shallow, and even the temperature of the breath, the sound of the breath, and where the breath flows through the body. Once you become mindful of your breath, you'll start to notice the spaces around where your breath flows in, around the lungs and the abdomen and the chest. And you just might, without judgment, notice what is happening there. Is this area of the body physically tight? Is there restriction? Maybe using your exhales to release and create space. Space. If it feels safe, you might just notice what is placed at your center. Maybe even how much room it's taking up. notice if you can soften the edges around whatever is there, using your breath and softness. Maybe even imagining it jostling and shifting and loosening. And just let that space continue to soften. And maybe allow the stiffness in the abdomen to soften and melt away. It might even feel good to imagine the solidness, the firmness of this object or thing melting into the ground and spilling out across the earth or the floor. And once this has been freed from the center, you might just use your mindfulness, your focus to imagine a little fire inside of you. And imagine you using your breath to build this fire. You'll inhale, gather a big breath, and gently allow the lips to push some air and feed this fire. Inhaling a big breath. Exhale, feeding this fire. Moving through this exercise as much as you need to, and even mindfully noticing the warmth of this fire as it builds in the abdomen. And let it warm the shoulders and the sides of your body. And maybe even warm the hips and the spine. And as this fire in the abdomen continues to build, let your focus be on this warmth and light. Feel the desire you have to nurture and love this fire within you. And then when you're ready, coming back to this present moment. And just letting your breath be natural, maybe blinking the eyes open. As you can see with this exercise, it didn't take very much for you to clear that space. It just took the focusing, it took the mindfulness to come back into the center. It also took the mindfulness to identify what is there and let it soften and let it spill out of the body, creating an openness to receive a higher power, a more heightened awareness of the self. And when my breath becomes my focus, it becomes a vehicle for that energy to release, and it creates the space for a new awakening to come in. And breath will become a very important part of that mindfulness tool. Keep working on letting go of what is at your center and creating the space for a higher power, a greater understanding to come in. Thank you for practicing with me. Namaste.